Hi guys, it's Martin from Voyager Project here, on a kind of bonus feature, if you will, for this new series of Quest for Tone. In this video I'm going to be kind of running through my live rig. You may have seen some of my other videos in the studio and there's not a lot of difference, but a few things have changed, and just explaining how I run things live really. So what I'll do, I'll put the guitar down, I'll pick up the camera, and I'll run through visually the rig and what the components are, and etc. And then I'll then sort of play through just some of the tones quickly that I've been using as part of the setup. Okay, so it all starts with the guitar. Snowy, my 2003 Ibanez JS100, and I actually use an elusive cable. I know they've just stopped making cables, but they sound great. They're not cheap. And this one is an enormous cable. It's a 30 foot, 9 meter one, so I have plenty of it coiled up most of the time, depending on the gig. That goes straight into the wah pedal and then into my interface box. My pedal board is wah pedal, the RJM Music Mastermind, which is my MIDI controller, and a Morley Little Alligator volume pedal, and then my custom interface box with tap tempo switch. And from there, that follows the pedal snake to the rack, which is where all the fun happens. Okay, the whole rig is based around switching systems from RJM Music Technology. I'm one of their artists, very happy to be part of their family. So from the pedal board, from the wah pedal, it goes into the mini effect gizmo, which has 5 loops in it. And if I pull the pedal shelf out, which is a bit tight, you will see the pedals in here. Okay, so loop 1 is the Sweet Sound Mofo vibe here, which, as you can see, I run at around 11 o'clock just for a gentle vibe setting. Loop 2 is the Full Tone Catalyst pedal, which is run on the Spark mode, which is the low gain mode, bass about halfway up, treble about 3/4 of the way up, volume at about just past 2 o'clock, and the gain at just past 1 o'clock. Loop 3 is the Full Tone OCD, which is in the high mode, HP mode, volume at 2 o'clock, drive quite a way down at about 10 o'clock, and the tone also down at about 10 o'clock, gives me a nice mellow overdrive. Loop 4 is the DS1, which is a Robert Keeley modded DS1 Ultra. The tone switch is up, the switch that they add to it. Tone itself is about 10 o'clock, level up at about 2 o'clock, and the distortion at about 3 o'clock. And then loop 5 finally, all these loops are running before the amps. Loop 5 goes into the carbon copy delay first, which is set for a very little delay, just a bit of a kind of splashback with the modulation on. It gives me a really nice sound, and then that comes straight from there into the Custom Audio Electronics boost, which again is set to about 6-7 dB boost, not a huge amount, and then back to the mini effect gizmo, at which point it's split out. One output goes to the Korg rack tuner in the bottom there, and the other one goes to the Why Not switcher from RJM, which splits the signal between one amp, the other amp, or both if I want both on, and most often I use both amps at the same time. As you can see on the front, there's a buffer switch which I always have on. I don't know whether it's a slight fault on my unit, but if I don't have the buffer on, I don't get any sound through. It's got an isolation switch. I don't need it on my rig, don't get any ground loops, don't notice any difference when I turn it on or off. And you can also invert the phase if your amps are different phases if they've got a number of gain stages. Mine haven't, so that's not a problem. Okay, and from there we come to the amps, which are a pair of Agnator tweakers. The top one is set to USA mode, vintage, and you say the EQ, 2 o'clock on treble, 11 o'clock middle, bass all the way up on clean, and you'll notice the gain is way low at about 9 o'clock. Bright switch is down, tight switch is down, so that's amp A in the system. And amp B is another tweaker. It's on the British or Marshall setting. Again, bass all the way up, treble and middle at about 12 o'clock, gain way lower gain on the clean setting. This time the bright and the tight switches are enabled, and both amps are on the masters at about 1 o'clock, which is the sweet spot. Much slower than that you don't get the kind of warmth that you get out of it at that level. Now from there they go into the back of the rack in a slightly complicated fashion. They're merged together using a Palmer Duetto mini mixer that then sends a signal out to the volume pedal back into the system, which then splits using a Palmer Y box, so that the dry signal comes back to the mini line mixer and the other signal goes to the effects processor, which is a TC G Major 2, which then sends a stereo signal back to the mini line mixer. I've also got it wired up so it's expandable, so if at a later date I wanted to add a sub rack with more pedals, I have the facility to do that, and I will be able to run pedals before the mini effect gizmo, and also run extra signals to the mini line mixer after the volume pedal. So if I wanted different delays and stuff like that, I'll be able to do that. And then speaker cabs are the Agnator 112X tweaker cabs, 2 of them. I have them, they're mounted in the front and back of the rack case lids to give a little bit of tilt, and then on a basic decorating platform with the blanket over to make it look pretty. I like it because it means that the amp is pointing towards my head rather than at my knees, so I hear the brightness of it, and it just means I can tuck all the cables and all the mess under there out of the way, and it looks good on stage. And they're mic'd up with Audix i5 microphones. In the studio I might use other microphones, I might use several microphones. For live I like the i5, it's got a good tone to it. It sounds great. They're very small portable mics and they're on amp clamps, so when it comes to the end of the gig I can just take the microphone off, put it away, pack the cab in the car, and every time I put this on it's always in the same position. Simple. Okay, so that's how the rig's set up, but how does it sound? Well, what I'll do is I'll run through one basic bank of presets. We're only on camera audio in this video, so you're not going to get the full effect that you would get through the microphones and everything else. But just to give you an example, this is my live setup. Now I'm on my mute sound. Always have a mute sound so you can tune silently. Mute preset. In this case it's number 14. But if I go up to my regular bank, first sound I'll go to is my standard clean with panning echoes. And what that's actually got, as well as obviously the echo that's on the tap tempo, is both amps on and the catalyst, actually the signal is going through that. So if I pick hard, you'll hear it breaking up. Which I really like, even though the gain is low on the catalyst and the gain is low on the amps. Just picking hard gives you enough oomph to just drive the amp into a bit of crunch. Great for that kind of bluesy tone. Essentially what I'm using the catalyst as is a treble booster more than a fuzz or as an overdrive or anything. So it's got a nice bright tone to that. It sounds great and it's really responsible for picking dynamics. Next sound is the one I was using at the start, which is the sound with the vibe on. So there's no echo or anything on that. A little bit of stereo imaging with some detune and also some reverb, but mostly it's about the vibe, no pun intended. Okay, next sound is using the carbon copy and the boost. So it's a kind of clean lead sound if such a thing exists. Now what I really like about this is the carbon copy responds really well, because if I pick hard you get the echo from the carbon copy. If I don't pick hard, if I pick gently, then I don't get any echo. There's no echo coming out of the TC on this one, we've just got reverb and chorus and stuff going on there. So you see there's hardly any echo going on there, whereas great analog delay sound, so great for any kind of rock and roll kind of stuff. Just gives a nice slap back. Yeah, all that kind of stuff is fantastic for that. Okay, next up is a standard overdrive sound. This is using the OCD, so it's a bit more gainy than any of the sounds so far. There's a bit of panning delay, but not lots of reverb, so it's great for that kind of classic rock rhythm sound. It cleans up nicely. Responsive to picking dynamics. And the final bank on this sound, briefly, is my lead sound, using the Keeley DS1, and it's got a nice bit of kick to it. So again, there's a bit of panning delay going on there, a little bit of chorus, but mostly that's about the gain. Obviously that is quite noisy, a lot of gain, you're going to get a lot of noise. I do plan at some point to implement some kind of noise gate in there. At the moment I haven't got one, so that'll be going into the sub rack that I'm planning to build at some point in the future. Okay, so that's kind of how I've approached this. What I will be doing in future Quest for Tone episodes is looking at different ways of how I've implemented each component, why I've chosen them, what the kind of range of tones I can get out of them is. But that's just a quick run through of the live rig. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Take care.